live, production, sound design, Kronos. Kronos is the new music workstation from Korg. Much more than a new instrument, it brings together fresh new ideas and completely new technologies. For example, 9 sound engines, not on separate cards, but working together, sharing power, sharing polyphony, sharing resources. Inside of the Kronos, we have 16 simultaneous effects, plus 32 simultaneous 3-band EQs. Inside, we have a 30 gigabyte internal SSD drive, plus an 8-inch TFT touch view display, making the interface extremely easy to use. Now, as I mentioned at the start, live, production, sound design. The Kronos is perfect for this. There are some features inside of the Kronos that are sort of aimed at each one of these 3 things. For example, live. One of the things people have been asking for years is to be able to play a sound and then change to another sound and not have the original sound cut off. My nervous hand. SST smooth sound transitions. I can go from one program to another program, even if it's a different engine. I can go from a program to a combination, to another combination. And what's great is that we don't need to reserve any kind of power. We don't need to use only half of the effects or only half of the sounds. We can use everything, all the effects, all of the sounds. I also don't have to be in any kind of particular mode. I can be in program mode, combination mode, so I can smoothly go from one program to another program, or from one combination to another combination, or from a program to a combination. Wait a minute. How do I go from a program to a combination? Introducing setlist mode. Setlist mode allows me to bring together 128 programs, combinations, or sequences and have them in front of me for to be able to use for my live performance. I can have 128 sets of 128, so lots of sounds at my fingertips. I have this lovely display with 16 at a time, so I can simply just go from one sound to another. Plus I have a 9-band EQ for each set list, so I can modify for the room that I'm playing in. Perfect for live. As real-time performance control, joystick, ribbon controller, switches, vector joystick to get that performance control. Live, production, sound design. Some things are aimed at production. For example, drum track. Every single program, every single combination has a drum pattern and drum kit working with it. So I can take a sound like this, turn on the drum track, and have more fun. These are completely programmable, change the kit, change the pattern, etc. We also have Karma. Karma is the most flexible and powerful arpeggiation system in the world, because rather than just taking the chord that you play and giving you a pattern, I have the beautiful control surface on the Kronos that allows me to go in and modify and change that pattern in real time. So I can go in and make the pattern be less busy, modify the durations, In program mode, I can have Karma and one drum track. In combination mode, I have 4 Karma patterns and drum track. I can have different scenes like this. Plus, this is going to inspire you. I guarantee it. There's all these great grooves, sounds, drum tracks, Karma, great sounds, and you will get an idea. With the 16-track sequencer inside, you can instantly bring everything into the sequencer and record your musical idea. You can take that even further. With the 16-track hard disk recorder, I have a great control surface so I can go in and mix, mute, solo, adjust EQs and so on right on that control surface. As well, we have the open sampling system where you can sample in virtually any mode, program, combination, wherever, time slicing, and even go in and load in a variety of samples in different formats. 16 simultaneous creative effects and 32 simultaneous 3-band EQs to add the icing to your cake. The keyboard has to be able to communicate with the real world, and the Kronos Music Workstation does it in spades. When it comes to the Music Workstation Kronos, you connect it to a computer with direct USB to a Mac or a PC, free editing software, free plugin editor that integrates the Kronos within most DAW software. And as well as your analog inputs and outputs and SPDIF, it also works as an audio I/O for sending and receiving 2 channels of audio via USB. I told you about the internal SSD drive, which you can also connect via USB to external media, plus connect a USB CDR recorder and record your final CD. So basically, it has all the tools to inspire you and give you musical ideas, but also to capture them and bring them down to a final product. Live production, sound design. But let's face it, sound design is at the heart of all of these. The Kronos is amazing. 9 sound engines. So let's take a look at them. First of all, the SGX-1. The sole purpose of the SGX-1 is to recreate a piano. From the strike of the string, to the resonance of the strings, to the noises that it makes from the damper pedal to key release. You can even control how open the lid of the piano is. But the key to this is that the SGX-1 doesn't have any loops. There are virtually no split points. Every single note sampled in stereo, 8 velocities, and no loops. It's reading the sample data directly from the internal SSD. Now there are 2 pianos. There's a German piano you're hearing right now, plus the Japanese grand. Both of these pianos together are 9 gigabyte of piano PCM. 9 gigabyte. Let's begin because we're using our new virtual memory technology, reading the samples directly from the disk, not having to load them, having access to them all the time. We took advantage of what we call the premier artist contributions. What we did is we went around to well-known musicians and basically borrowed their good taste and their ears. People like Herbie Hancock, Jordan Rudess, Frank McComb, George Duke, Lyle Mays, Russ Ferrante, Tom Coster, Jeff Lorber, John Novello, and Rick Lawson, and many other people. We sat down with them and they helped us create and tweak many of the sounds that you hear inside of the Kronos. For example, we sat down with Lyle Mays, and Lyle Mays fell in love with the pianos, obviously, but what he also fell in love with was the amazing reverb inside of the Kronos. It's just so beautiful, and that it is one of those sort of things that Lyle Mays is sort of famous for. You have this nice, smooth reverb, where the reverb actually becomes part of the sound. Worked with him till it was just right. The next instrument inside the next engine is the MS-20EX. This engine is dedicated to recreating the sound of an MS-20. Now, that's not actually true. Not recreating the sound of an MS-20, but how an MS-20 actually worked. The engineers that created the MS-20 recreated this. Literally every single capacitor, what each wire did, what each chip did, and then created for you the amazing MS-20EX. Drum track! The next engine I'd like to show you, let me point out a couple more things. The MS-20, you can actually get in and edit the entire thing, even down to connecting the cables using the interface. It is extremely fun to use. The next instrument, the Poly 6 EX. That lovely, warm Poly 6 sound. Because huge amount of polyphony and many, many more powerful features that weren't in the original Poly 6, but you still get that warm sound. It also includes being able to incorporate the things I was talking about before. For example, Karma, and drum track. And if you're just arriving, noticing I'm changing from one sound to another sound, and the other sound isn't cutting off. The effects still carry on through it. Inside of the Kronos, I can have a program have actually two different synth engines at the same time. In this example, an MS-20 and a Poly 6 EX. Making huge sounds, or beautiful sounds like this. Next synth engine, the AL1. It's a lot of fun to go back into the past and go, let's recreate what that particular instrument sounded like. But what would happen if we created an analog instrument that we created today? The result is the AL1. Amazing multi-mode filters, amazing LFO selection, step sequencers, changing to another sound. Now, the one thing we were able to create is extremely low aliasing oscillators. First of all of our sampling was done at 1 bit, and that means that even from the start, the sounds were crystal clear. But even if, for example, things like with the AL1, we're doing modeling, when you would take something and play this kind of a sound up on top, typical instruments out there rip your head off because of the aliasing. You get that sound up on top. It sounds really harsh. And so what you have to do is roll off the filter, the high end on those sounds, so you lose the high end when you go up on top, but not with the Kronos. I can go up, I can go right up on top, and it's still crystal clear and clean. Next instrument I want to show you, the CX3 tone wheel organ. Again, with wonderful drawbar control. Plus the rotary speaker built right into the sound itself. Engine, the Mod 7, wave shaping VPM synthesizer. This basically is creating synthesis where you take one waveform and modulate with another, frequency modulation. But the amazing thing about the Mod 7 is the power that you have. Very easy interface on the screen. You touch where you want to connect instruments together, or the sounds together. Plus you can even use things like PCM to modulate sounds. So you do get the traditional frequency modulation sounds. Those punchy frequency modulation sounds. But then in this sound, what's actually using is the sample of what we call a cymbal flute, and it's modulating the waveform of another waveform. So then you get sound you've never heard before. Sound engine inside of the Kronos is the STR1 string plucked string model. This is where you basically have the ability to go in and say, okay, what is the string made of? What's it going to be? Is it going to be plucked, scraped, struck? Is it where you're going to actually strike it itself? So you can have go in and say, instead of just the typical sort of thing of a sample of the guitar playing that note, I can actually in real time move the pick closer to the bridge, closer to the sound hole. Now this is great for doing things, for example, that really were never possible before. Typically when we wanted to have feedback, what we would do is actually have a sample of a guitar doing feedback, and you'd have some controller switch between the real sound and the other. This is taking the output from the sound engine, bringing it back around, and having the output of it re-excite the string again. That's what happens when you take a guitar and actually go close to the amplifier. The amplifier is re-exciting the string. As you move the guitar from left to right, you can actually get different types of feedback. So with the vector joystick, as I bring it forward, is going to start bringing that signal back into re-excite and get feedback. Going left to right is actually going to move the position of the guitar. I like that. Of course, it's great for all kinds of plucked instruments as well as struck things like bells, electric pianos. But it's amazing with the sound that you can get out of this STR1. It's an incredible engine. Next, engine EP1. Is designed to do one thing and one thing only, and that's to do electric pianos. Now the way that we did that is that we actually separate the tonal harmonics of the sound and the noises. Then we take those tonal harmonics and we do what's called MDS, multi-dimensional synthesis. We basically bring the sound, we analyze it, and then bring it back together and analyze it this way, and this way. And when we recreate it, we absolutely get no split points, no velocity switching, and no loops. We also modeled the vintage effects. And you can get in there, select them, even modify things like the amplifier totally with the engine, within the engine itself, without touching the insert effects. Now we actually have 6 different models, 4 designed for Tyne and 2 designed for Reed. I was talking to you earlier about the premier artist contributions, all these great musicians that helped us tweak and create some of the sounds inside of here. This is another example. Herbie's Butterfly EP does refer to the 9th engine is the HD1 high definition PCM synth. Now we've been looking at different engines that are designed for specific things: pianos, organs, electric pianos, analog synth. The HD1 is basically your meat and potatoes, everything. Every musical category you can think of, the HD1 can do it. It's PCM playback and an extremely strings, flute, muted trumpet, brass, bells, again, crystal clear up on top of the low Aliasing oscillators, very clean but nice and dirty too. And drum track for a minute, just play a chord while I talk about a couple of things. The HD1,